Although there will be separate protocols, the value is shared equally, and we will have built a sort of joint community, and that's exactly how we see the future of Boson and Fermion.
Okay, so I'm really excited to talk to Justin Bannon today, CEO and founder of Boson Protocol. There is a kind of exclusive announcement that we're going to get to talk to him about as they look to kind of further explore the RWA space, and in particular the announcement of a new protocol called Fermion. So welcome back, Justin.
Thanks, Jamie. Great to be here, and excited to be able to share this news with the community, and with you.
So I know you've been kind of teasing the community with some tweets and hints as to what's to come. And of course, there's lots of exciting stuff happening within the Boson Protocol ecosystem as well. The WooCommerce announcement integration has now gone live. So that's now available to all those people that are kind of building and opening shops on the WooCommerce platform. But let's get into what is called Fermion, this new protocol. Firstly, what is Fermion? What's the high level statement for Fermion maybe? And then we can get into why Fermion existed, and what you've learned at Boson Protocol that kind of feeds into that.
So Fermion Protocol is a new protocol which we're developing, which will basically create a fractional market for verified physical real-world assets. By verified physical real-world assets, what we mean are things like fine wine, luxury assets. Even it will eventually extend to things like commodities or any high-value physical asset that requires a high level of verification.
What's the difference between that and Boson Protocol? Are they kind of optimizing for different things?
As you know, I've been doing quite a lot of research and really getting into the economic theory of real-world assets. And so what became increasingly clear is that the design choices that we made for Boson Protocol were very much tailored towards replacing entities like Amazon and eBay. And they use a very low-cost model where a seller will send the item to the buyer, and then the buyer, if they have a problem, they will dispute afterwards. To be honest, you can't really use another model because the margins are thin, and so it has to be a pretty lightweight model. And that's for Boson. But there's another sort of adjacent domain of typically more high-value assets or assets that require this higher level of verification. And so this adjacent domain is what we're attacking with Fermion Protocol, with a fundamentally different protocol design that's tailored to address that part of the market. And then when you put those two together, we have this kind of complete coverage from the sort of, the commerce product and then the high value end of this physical real world asset market.
So maybe let's go into those design choices. What are the kind of fundamental things that this new protocol needs to have built into the protocol?
It's different in sort of four main ways. So firstly, the assets require higher verification. So you can't, if you're sending a Rolex or fine wine or jewelry or art, you can't just send that in the post from seller to buyer. And, that doesn't have really enough verification. And so Fermion uses trusted verifiers and custodians in order to give that higher level of verification. Secondly, these sort of assets are more like financial assets. And so they require a much higher level of capital efficiency. So if you look into the sort of finance and securities industry, capital efficiency is so important. And yet with fully decentralized, trust minimized protocols like Boson, like MakerDAO, you have to lock up funds in order to have any sort of control over the buyers and sellers and their incentives. I mean, that's the fundamentals of the sort of crypto economic mechanisms. And that works fine for a commerce transaction where sellers are used to getting paid by MasterCard and Amazon in 2 to 4 weeks. For example, you couldn't take a case of very expensive Japanese whiskey and that was going to mature over 10 years and lock up the seller's funds for 10 years. That's another major difference. And then thirdly, building in this longer duration for tokenization is absolutely key, right? These things need to be able to trade over a very, very long period of time. And so that, the protocol enables that. And then finally, for high value assets, it's really valuable to be able to leverage the power of fractionalization. And so some of these emerging native NFT fractionalization standards like ERC 404 are really powerful ways of enabling more people to purchase high value assets and tapping into this emerging global liquidity pool of DeFi. So that's the four kind of main design requirements. And when you put those together, you get a very different protocol design optimized for that domain compared to Boson.
Given this is a new protocol and therefore kind of a new network and a marketplace, really, how do you solve for that kind of marketplace dilemma of supply and demand? How do you incentivize people to begin to use the network, bring assets to the network, and then bring that liquidity?
There are already lots of sellers of things like wine and luxury goods that are entering into this market already. So I think the market is sort of ready for a solution to come in with real kind of, with real fundamentals that we can bring with obviously the skills and knowledge we have of doing this with Boson. With tokens, we're able to incentivize that and turbocharge that in a way that perhaps you're not able to do in sort of Web 2. So to give you a bit of insight into that, we have a role within Fermion Protocol called sorcerers. And so that's like an agent who sources. They are highly incentivized to go and find sources of supply, even custodians and verifiers, bring them onto the network, and then they stand to make not only token rewards, but also an enduring sort of revenue stream. So there's a big incentive to kind of bring off-chain supply onto the network, almost like a business, because you'll then get a cut of that in perpetuity.
And I guess the liquidity then comes from the other side, because really you're just tapping into existing Ethereum DeFi, at least initially, right? So this isn't kind of a new layer 2 or a layer 3. It's just a primitive that allows you to do new things on the existing Ethereum network. And therefore, you're just tapping into that existing kind of DeFi liquidity, right?
I mean, there are a couple of things that we have to sort of trade off there. One is obviously the cost of the Ethereum network. But if these are high value assets, that cost is kind of more bearable. The other thing that we've sort of detected with Boson is that people have a preference for Ethereum with high value assets. However, we will also deploy to Polygon as well, because that obviously that is substantially cheaper. And our overall strategy is a multi-chain strategy. We see Fermion as a protocol that will sort of sit as a global on-chain marketplace. And whether you're interacting with one chain or another should be, kind of somewhat opaque to that user experience.
And so what's the kind of total addressable market with this? I mean, you hinted at some things in the context of collectibles, but then you also referenced this could be much broader and applied to commodities more generally. So how are you kind of sizing the market opportunity?
The collectibles market is about $500 billion and growing. But then there's this sort of broader luxury and high value physical asset, which you could say is about $1 trillion. Those are sort of the entry markets. What we're building here is a new primitive, a new layer for doing physical exchange on chain that's tailored to these higher value assets. We will then have in the market these two separate protocols. You've got Boson, highly efficient, but with trade-offs and capital efficiency. And then Fermion, more costly, but super robust. And pretty much any physical asset can then be brought on chain and traded using these protocols. So there literally isn't another category. And I do think we will see in time a consolidation So our focus is, I mean, obviously we've got this incredibly expert team at designing these sort of protocols, and including all the kind of academics and theory, lots of theory that goes behind it. We think in time there will just be a protocol to do this and a protocol to do that. And so that is our sort of long-term vision. Obviously, you need to select an entry market where there is demand and where we can kind of scale into, and there's a clear opportunity there to do that.
What is going to be the relationship between Boson and Fermion, and what does that mean for the Boson community?
Having discovered this sort of huge opportunity and a solution for it, I had sort of four choices, really. I could either do nothing, just focus on Boson, but I think that's a missed opportunity, and it also leaves a very lucrative adjacent market for competitors to grow and then potentially kind of threaten Boson in its home market. So I don't think that's a good idea. The second one would be to develop this within Boson. But, the money we raised with Boson and the mission of Boson is very, very clear, and it was never to do this. So, I don't really think that's a legitimate choice either. And I think quite rightly, a substantial portion of the Boson community would have not wanted to do that. The third one was just me as a private individual, just doing this separately, which of course is my right. However, that doesn't really share value with the Boson community, and I think there'd be, quite rightly, some challenges with that. So the fourth option, and the option we're going with, is to do this, to do it separately, but then to share value with the Boson community, because unlike Web 2 platforms, participants get to share in the value they create.
So how exactly does that work for the Boson community then?
Boson token holders can stake into a staking contract, and they will stake their Boson tokens for 6 months, after which point they will be able to withdraw their Boson. And then as of March next year, they will receive Fermion tokens on a one-to-one basis. Any and all Boson holders that do that can end up having a one-to-one holding with Boson and Fermion. So although there will be separate protocols, the value is shared equally, and we will have built a sort of joint community, and that's exactly how we see the future of Boson and Fermion.
And obviously, we ourselves at Outlier are a Boson holder, and a significant one in the community. So I'm happy to announce that we'll obviously be participating in that process. We'll be staking a large majority of our holdings to kind of support both Fermion and the Boson network, and really excited to see how that rolls out. Well, look, Justin, thanks for coming on and sharing that with us, and excited to see its rollout.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jamie.